Kukurea hu ispayeya. I am Trembla. More than I can believe, guys. I'm so scared. We are not good at West Ham. Yo, people, welcome back to the YouTube channel. You already know what time it is. It's time for another video. Big up your damn selves in the building. Make sure you smash up the likes every single damn time and subscribe if you are new. West Ham versus Chelsea preview. And like I said in the intro, I am Trembla. I am scared. I am nervous because our record here at West Ham is not good. We lost here last season, as the thumbnail shows. Caicedo obviously giving that penalty away. But he would then go on to improve drastically as the season went on and show us his qualities. And that is the kind of quality I need to see from him in this game and for him to rectify those ruins last year. Now, there's a lot to get into, so it's a packed preview, and I want to start with the presser because obviously Enzo Maresca had a lot to say. Now, he did, again, he's a smooth talker, all right? He's a clean speaker. However, there are some holes to pick in a certain question that he was asked with the attackers. He did break it down quite nicely to go two per position. He said that Sancho and Mudryk are the left wingers, Neto and Madueke are the right wingers, the 10s are Felix and Palmer, and up front is Jackson and Nkunku. And he did then allude to the fact that, of course, Nkunku can drop in to the 10. Potentially, you could play Felix on the left, etc. Neto could play both flanks. They're all versatile attackers. That would have all been good if we had 8 attackers, but we don't. We have 10. He did bring Gu into the conversation later on, which is cool, but he absolutely completely forgot about Carney Chukwuemeka, who was not sold, of course, in the window in the summer, but is meant to be reintegrated back into this team and meant to be at least getting back into, you know, some sort of first team action, even if that is off the bench in Conference League games. He did say he likes the player, and I expect to then see something for the player. But again, like I said in the last video, the options for Chukwuemeka as one of Chelsea's fallen soldiers right now, there isn't much, you know, breathing room. It's very congested. It's very claustrophobic in these areas. And even the manager has unfortunately forgotten him. So he needs to remind him who he is in training and hopefully remind him who he is on the pitch when he gets his opportunities. He also did mention Acheampong because we also had a right back, you know, issue against Bournemouth that we did eventually in the second half fix, and we will be talking about that on the tactical pad later on in the video. But he did talk about Acheampong a little bit, but he kind of alluded to the fact that he's probably going to take some time to integrate him. The highs and lows of men's football, the highs and lows of media attention, and he's going to take his time to, you know, integrate him. Hopefully, at least in this game, he is on the bench because both Gusto and Reece James are still out. And in the Conference League, I'd like to see him. I'm not expecting him to start this game, but I'd like to at least see him on the bench as an option because he's the only actual right back in the first team squad as it stands. And he also did, of course, speak on a couple of the concerns that people have had that we mentioned as well on All You Can Eat Chelsea with Nkunku and Jackson. How is that even going to work? Listen, it's rotation. I don't think Nkunku is durable enough to even play 38 Premier League games up front. I don't think it's his strength to play with his back to goal against really strong physical centre-backs because, like I said, the durability is something that we need to be concerned about. We need to protect him from his injuries. And I don't think he's an out-and-out striker anyway, a lone striker, a target man. He's a different type of player. He's obviously, you know, very good at connecting the dots. He's very good in the half spaces. I think he's a arriver. I think he's a second striker. But because we haven't signed anyone up front of first team quality, he has to be used there. So it's dependent on the game. Sometimes you do need Jackson's kind of target man-esque attributes. You know, he's become very good at holding up the ball. He's become very good at holding up the ball against strong, you know, defenders. Remember the performance against Liverpool and Konate and Van Dijk in the cup final a few years ago. So, you know, he's a player that he's still of use. Obviously, Nkunku is a much better finisher. But there's more to the striker role than finishing. It's most important, the finishing, but there is more to the role than finishing. There's a lot of, you know, hard work and graft and, you know, dummy runs that get made that is not always appreciated, and pressing, of course, as well from the front. So there's a lot to be done. Now let's get into the tactical pad. Let me bring it to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, because there's a lot to get into, as we always say with this. Now I've got Lawless's team on screen, and listen, I like to see what he's cooking. He actually has picked a very bold, aggressive, attacking team. I don't know if that's because he doesn't respect us or because he's just so desperate to win. The Chelsea team that I've got on screen is the team that played and started against Bournemouth. As you can see, Disasi at the right back position, Renato Vieira in the midfield position next to Caicedo, Palmer, Neto, and Madueke in that front four of Jackson, of course, the back line. Now, we all know that Disasi cannot play in that right back position. It's blasphemy if he positions himself on that pitch again in that place. He cannot be there. He cannot be there, guys. So Because we know this, let's just take the Sassy out, because that's not gonna work. Second half, we saw Fofana go out there, we saw Tosin come into the defense, and we coped, because we know Cucurella, Cucurella is kind of becoming an inverted left back, but also underlapping runs, like a Dogi kind of runs in between the left winger and the striker, and giving Sancho in the second half an option, which I was worried that he might not get. I was worried that we would continue to invert our left back. Obviously, Renato being there maybe was the reason why it never happened, but I was concerned that we might just keep putting our fullback into midfield and not really giving Sancho any option. We didn't do that. Tosin and Cole and Fofana then become some sort of back three, and next thing you know, we've got ourselves a more coherent, comprehensive centre-back pairing that makes sense. They understand each other. The communication is key. We didn't have the French connection, but we certainly had it here with these three. And we defended well in the second half. Fofana in the wide spaces is far quicker than Disasi. Everything was starting to make sense. The math was mathing. So you could do that again. You could go straight Fofana at right back. I personally, up against potentially, if it's Lawless having his way with the world, it's Somerville at left wing, it's Kudus at right, it's Bowen and some sort of combination of Bowen and Ings up front. Obviously, Bowen could come to the right, Kudus could go into the 10. He's even got Paqueta in the midfield next to Alvarez. He's gone so attacking, it's crazy. You could even go to a midfield 3 if you're West Ham and play that way. I think that probably suits them the best, a 4-3-3. You get your 2 8s in the half spaces with Kudus and Paqueta. These are very dangerous zones. This is something that is very concerning. And how as a club do we counteract that? Because we know that Enzo is now fit. Could he come back into this team? Could he play? If he does, do we play him next to Caicedo? Do we trust those two to be able to handle potentially if Lopetegui was to do this? This is if, because this is what Lawless wants. And I'm going to get into what Lopetegui did actually against Fulham last week in the 1-1 draw. But if Lopetegui goes balls to the walls, this could be a very, very dangerous front four from West Ham. And it could be very, very, very tough for our midfielders to get in amongst them and take over. Not really on the ball, I'm worried. It's more off the ball. As we all know, it could sometimes get brushed aside. So how do we deal with that situation? How do we improve? Do we leave Renato in there? Combative, physical, tall, aerially competent? Or do we take him out and we bring Enzo in? Or do we bring Enzo in, right? Do we bring Enzo in? Do we take Tosin out? And do we put Caicedo at right back and play like that? And you could now play Caicedo right back. He could, again, the thing is, if once you've got a fullback in the midfield already from the start, you don't need anybody inverting, right? Unless you are playing this kind of game. And now things are starting to get muddled up, but you're pushing Enzo forward, you're inverting Caicedo, you're going with your 3-2 build up, and that's more how it looks. But you're pushing Enzo more further forward into those kind of box to box. He's playing more of a box to box midfield role now. Is Enzo got the lung capacity, the facilities, the capabilities to play this box to box role? Because this is something that we keep trying to get him to do. And it's something that we're not sure if he really has the legs for. But that is, again, a role that he is being asked to do quite often. And I understand why, because you're not going to play Enzo anywhere else but midfield. And you're always going to tuck in a fullback, potentially. So it's an interesting dynamic. What do you do? Talk to me in the comments. What would you do? Who would you play? But like I said, you can just revert to a toss-in. You could just go with that lineup that we finished with against Bournemouth. And then it's a question of, do you want Enzo in that midfield next to Caicedo? And then are you just taking Renato out and going with an extra centre-half in this side and just going with the normal pivot partnership that we're used to? So you let me know in the comments down below. For me, this depends on Souček for West Ham. And I say this now. Souček is not he's not some incredible player. I haven't got him actually here, but he played against Fulham. And Souček was kind of playing in the 10. And he's a box crusher and set pieces. He'll get in there and he'll cause a problem. And Antonio, when we lost against West Ham previously as well, was up against Levi Colwell, giving him the shoulder to shoulder, physically giving him issues. Hopefully Colwell has improved physically since that time. And if he was to meet an Antonio again, he wouldn't be so kind of dazzled and dazed and flawed. But these are the issues that I worry about, really, is more of West Ham. Obviously, we know technically they're a very good team. We're a very good team technically. It would be a tech-off. But if West Ham were to go down the David Moyes route and were to go with a less luxurious midfield and to get Solanke in this team, sorry, not Solanke, to get Souček into this team, to get Antonio into this team, plus the centre halves coming up for corners. If you even went Kufau, say Emerson, there's been rumours that Emerson's not available. You take Emerson out, you put Kufau in the right back position. How does that look from a West Ham standpoint? That's another 6-foot+ player coming into the side. I haven't got him here. I haven't got their bench. I haven't gone that far in today. But you get my point. West Ham could be a very much player on the ground, and it could be a really tough game in that respect, but they could also get very nasty and get very physical, and that could be a very nasty game for us because we're not great at the physical side of things, in my opinion. So it's an interesting situation. Let me know in the comments what you would do with that midfield. Do you play Enzo and Caicedo? Do you bring Renato in? Do you put Caicedo right back and let him kind of invert? Do you leave him over there to just deal with Somerville and not even come inside? Talk to me. Tossing, no tossing. How would you do it? It's a real puzzler. It's a real question mark. The other question mark is, of course, what do we do with Jackson versus Nkunku? It's been alluded to. I mean, first of all, with Neto, I think we can be safe to say that Neto is probably not going to start on that left wing, and it will probably be Sancho who comes in, and then it's Jackson versus Nkunku. Like I said with Nkunku, I am a little bit sometimes concerned physically. Can he play from the get-go? If it depends on how we're playing. Are we dominating the game? Do we have possession? Is he able to play with Sancho in the way that we did in that second half against Bournemouth, where Chelsea are on top? But if Chelsea are not on top and Chelsea are struggling to get out of the press, like the first half against Bournemouth in particular, where Chelsea were very poor, and Nkunku is playing on the halfway line, trying to be an outlet for a West Ham team that are really pushing up the pitch, Is that a situation that helps Nkunku? Is that a situation where Nkunku can be the target man, can be a player that helps us escape? I've got no doubts he can run in behind Mavropanos and run in behind Kilman and give that option, but so can Jackson. They both have pace. But if you lump the ball forward to Nkunku, is he able to handle the combative nature of the centre-backs and bring Chelsea up the pitch? And for me, the answer is no. And that's why it's not so clear-cut to say Nkunku is Chelsea's new number 9, and that's all said and done. Again, with right wing, you could go Madueke, you could go Neto on the right. The manager's already alluded to the fact that, Neto was the left winger because we didn't have Sancho. Now we have Sancho. It's Sancho versus Mudryk. It's Neto versus Madueke. So maybe he'll give Neto the opportunity to start from the right wing. Maybe he'll start Madueke. I don't really mind too much. Both of them can be just as dangerous as each other, depending on the situation. And obviously, if Emerson isn't unavailable, which I'm not sure, and Creswell comes in, Madueke could absolutely rip him, especially if he's not played, games consecutively. He could be a little bit rusty. Or Neto could show his quality over there as well. He's a great player. So I'm not really too bothered about who plays on the right wing. It could be either or, and the other person comes off the bench. They are fighting for that position. None of them have started it to a level yet where you could say it's their position yet. It's not theirs for sure, not guaranteed, but it's open, and they both have the quality to take it. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, Achimpong won't come into this team, and that's the situation, guys. So talk to me. Sanchez will start in goal, of course. There's no question. The back line mainly almost picks itself, apart from that right back situation. And yeah, Chelsea living large. Chelsea got options, guys. They got options, and I'm just nervous. We know that West Ham's a tough away game. We know that we don't travel well here, but we need to win this game. This is kind of like borderline, I think. This is borderline. If we can win this game, you can securely say it's been a good start to the season. If Chelsea lose this game, it's been a disappointing start to the season. So this is the game that kind of defines how good we are right now. It's a really tricky away game. It's not a great record, and we know we'll come up against a good team that will be fighting for European places. So if we can win this game, I think it doesn't put down a marker for title races and stuff, but for top 4 to go to West Ham and win, I think it does put down a marker to the Tottenhams, to the Man Uniteds, to the Newcastles, Aston Villas, and says, you know what? Chelsea are going to be a serious team this season. They're actually going to be fighting for this top 4 right until the last day. You guys let me know in the comments down below what you make of the team selection, what you make of what's going to happen. My score prediction, as I said with Lawless, I'm going to go over 3-2 Chelsea win. Goals galore in this game. I can see both teams conceding, and there's loads of attacking firepower for both sides. But yeah, let me know your score prediction in the comments. Big up your damn selves, and I'll see you guys next time. In a bit, people. Peace.